Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by this quarter's sponsor, Playground, the all-in-one childcare management software. We're all about managing monkeys and saving you time at your center. With this platform, you can. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at tryplayground.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Welcome back to Childcare Conversations, and I am so excited for today's conversation because, well, we're going to talk a little bit about making some smart business decisions. And today's guest that we are going to chat is Laura Biederman. And Laura is with Ebenezer, and they have 8 locations. And I'm so excited to talk with Laura about her journey and specifically about that whole growing in business and what it's like to go and keep adding schools and more locations. So, Laura, why don't you tell folks a little bit about how you got into the industry, and from there, we'll see where things go.
Sure. So, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. But I got into the field a really long time ago. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, right from growing up, played teacher in my grandma's basement. But I think the biggest piece that shifted is I've lived in many different states, and along the way, you need teaching licenses to teach. And when I moved to Wisconsin, I was waiting for mine because I wanted to teach 4th grade, my all-time favorite grade. And it wasn't coming quick enough. So I got a job back in childcare because I knew I loved kids, and I never left. That was back in 2014 when I moved here, and I did get my teaching license just because it came through, but I never left the field. I just loved it. I started as a pre-K teacher. I've held every position into becoming a district leader. So I've held all those roles to see the differences in what they play in all of childcare. And now here at Ebenezer, I'm the associate executive director.
Love that. So, Laura, now that you have spent a little time in the industry and you went from teacher to administrator, what was one of the things that probably, I'm going to go with, surprised you the most when that transition, that first transition? So think back, that first transition from really qualified teacher to now you're an administrative leader. What was the thing that kind of resonated with you? Like, wait a minute.
It was that I was actually a leader. I'm running a business. And I think that was the biggest thing that I did not understand when I first took over my center. Is I didn't realize that I was a leader and that I was running a business. And those are things that we don't think about. Like, we're great teachers, right? We get promoted along the way. And that I had to really learn, and I had to dive into, and I had to, just embrace my surroundings. I worked at a corporation then. So really just being led and trained and soaking in how to run a business. And then I also had to go back and get my administrative credential in Wisconsin that helps you with the business side. So I think just all that learning. But the first thing I had to identify is that this is a business, and we have to sometimes make hard business decisions, and we are really good at putting those off.
Hard decisions, hard conversations. Those are never phrases any director loves to say. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. How much training did you have to be a teacher?
Oh, years, right? I have my bachelor's in education. So I have 4 years there. And then I think I even had So 4 years there, plus I'd always wanted to be in the field. So I'm doing other stuff to learn more about how to be a better teacher. So minimum 4 years.
Okay. So you had 4 years of training to be a teacher, and then you did such a great job. They promoted you to a role, and you mentioned you were with a corporation. Did the corporation even have kind of a manager and training track, or were you literally thrown to the wolves?
I was a generation that was thrown into the wolves. So a fun fact, I was an assistant director for 6 months, went out on maternity leave, came back as the center director. So
Happy birthday promotion,
yeah,
baby
everything,
day, all
right?
those things.
So I had hardly any training. Now I was doing it well, right? I'm a really quick learner. I've worked in restaurant business, right? Like I've had all those things and those experiences that have helped me learn. But I had no formal training. So then when I got the credential, it helped. But the biggest part was really just being curious and trying to understand like all the different things, right? The P&Ls, the enrollment, the parents, everything that goes with it. It was a lot of learn as you go. And I had a day and a half with my previous boss when I came back. So it was a lot of being thrown in, but I do learn really well that way. So however, we learned along that way that that is not best practice. So at that corporation, we did start to create a manager in training, and we had that towards the end. But I mean, we didn't have it for a long time for many people. So a lot of us just had to kind of learn as we go, right? Like you had to learn, how do you become NACE accredited? What does that process look like? Like, how do you do reaccreditation? All those things you're learning as you go, where having a manager in training would be wonderful for any type
Well,
of
it's so funny because I always laugh when I have conversations with pretty much anybody in the industry. And like you, I've been in the industry for a long time, a little bit longer than you. And, but I also did a lot of other industries. And one of the things that I found interesting is in healthcare, in retail, and in food service, hospitality, all three of those industries, which are often people will go, oh, well, I can make as much money or I can do it over here, right? But the one thing that those three industries do across the board, across the corporations, the mom and pops, is 90% of them have a true manager in training track. Like you can jump into a retail setting and you can get hired as their MIT.
Yep.
Right. So you get hired as a manager in training. You can go to Taco Bell and get hired into a manager at training, right? Hotels, all these things. And so from day one, your path is towards management. We don't do that. We take these awesomely very confident, well-trained educators and now go run a business. And like you said, you didn't have any real formal training. So they expected you to manage a budget, manage people, manage parents, manage marketing plans with zero training. And we wonder why sometimes our directors, our administrators get burned out. It's because we've set them up to fail from the get-go. And the other part of that I also find interesting when we talk about like that you weren't trained to manage people, the staff piece. The other thing that I think is so interesting, because I'm one of those people, right? I'm one of those people that kept telling people, you've got to make sure you're training your staff. If you don't want the staff turnover, train your staff. But like everything else, like we didn't teach you how to manage a budget. We also didn't teach you how to teach adults.
Right. And that's so different. It is not the same as, I mean, okay, you can use some of the like philosophies and you can kind of change it to adults, but nobody taught you how to do that. So I've spent most of my career learning how to become a leader and reading books like Dare to Lead, any type of books like that I can. Do you have that one? I love it. It's a great one. Right. But like, she's so right in it. It's such a good book. And she's also really funny, which I like. Like, I like any type of book that has some humor in it too. But just diving in and trying to figure out like, where are my strengths? How does that relate to others? And how do I then lead them? So one thing that we've actually been doing is we do monthly manager trainings here at Ebenezer for our managers. And we've really been diving into personalities and how important they are, right? So we've been using the personality compass to see where everybody is. So you have north, south, east, and west, and everybody's different. But what was really eye-opening to me is we had a lot of people who were south and west, and I'm northeast. So like automatically I'm very different and my brain is wired completely different. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm leading people who are different. So I have to figure out how to meet them where they are. So our managers took it back to the teachers, right? Because then they're leading other people, and it completely, for one set of managers, it was like it helped them fully understand each other better and to see, okay, so your strength is my weakness. And it just was, they balance each other out so well. But get through that, like can be hard sometimes.
So one of the things that Laura mentioned is like one of 100 probably personality or the way you think kind of indexes. And so in the first book that Carrie and I have been teaching with since 2002, the very first thing we have is know yourself. And so in the know yourself, there for a while, we had a lot of brain dominance language, but over the years, we've kind of picked different ones because we want people to explore what works for them, right? So, so we're not going to sit here and say you have to use, you have to use Herman brain dominance, or you have to use Myers-Briggs, or you have to use DISC, or you have to, right? Or that you have to use, whichever, pick the flavor of the month. Because I think the key part of that is, as a leader, you have to know exactly who you are, right? You have to know how you think. You have to know your personality. How do you lead? How do you manage? How do you learn? How do you communicate? Because if you don't know how you do that, then you have no way of really being better and being able to do that with the other folks in your program. So, I love that. So I am really curious. When you talk about some of the books and the fact that you read books, so, as an author, I always get excited when people say they read books. Do you have a director bookshelf? Do you have a bookshelf of books behind you that you often pull from and maybe even share for those leaders you're building up in your organization? And if so, tell me what's on it other than Dare to Lead.
So one of them is, we started as a group. It's called Finish. It's by John Acuff, and he really talks about how to finish things. It's a really good one. That's one of the biggest ones. I do have a lot right now, but that's one. And also Fish is one that we have. So the Fish philosophy is a big thing, right? Like it's a huge thing. And it just really talks about how to build a culture. And it's so simple. It's right. Have fun. Just all the different things. That one's on there. I have some that I have not read yet that are waiting for me to do that. With our growth this year, it got a little busy. But another one is like Who Moved the Cheese? Like Who Moved My Cheese? It's just and it's such an easy read. So I found that if I give somebody an easier, simpler read, they're going to do it better than if it's like a really big book. And others are just fine. Others I can say, hey, this is a great book, and they'll just go straight for it. Or they'll tell me, hey, I read this book in my class. It's really good. We should do this. So those are the biggest ones that we've done. There's a few others out there that we're going to start reading. But yeah.
All right. So I would be remiss and people would go, I can't believe you didn't say something. Okay. So first of all, I just want to remind everybody who's listening that children are not widgets. And the reason I say that is that so many of the business books you just mentioned, Laura, are designed for different types of organizations. So I am going to strongly encourage you to go look for, and to add to your bookshelf, I Got This, the Childcare Director Leadership Blueprint.
Yep. Some of our managers have read that one.
Transform Your Team by Beth Cannon. Okay. Rachel Sapala has a great book out. So does Latrice Galloway. That is called The Power of One. Now, here's why I'm saying this. Other than the fact, as the publisher for some of them, there is a publisher twist there. But in early childcare, female leaders managing female staff, we don't think the same. We are not the same, and we aren't producing widgets. So I am going to challenge you to go find those books by those early childhood education leaders, the Beth Cannons, the Vernon Masons, Latrice Galloway. I was trying to do it without actually looking at my shelf, but I was not successful. Even Kathy Lingon's 5 Pillars of Profit-Driven Success. So there are some great books. If you're curious where to find a list of them, I actually have a Pinterest board for childcare conversations that says Director's Bookshelf. And so it includes Dare to Lead, it includes Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and some of the other like really strong female leadership books. But one of the things that I keep getting stuck in, and I will tell you that I got this, the Childcare Leadership Blueprint, which I am the author of, was actually written because I went to a conference, childcare conference. Keynote speaker was a dude. There were 300 women in the room. Every quote, everything he said was attributed to a dead white guy. And so I was like, You are in a room with 300 women and you couldn't have found one female
Like just one.
inspirational quote, just one, right? And so, I like to challenge folks. And so I did not. So just so you know, I loved every book you just mentioned. I also would have added Raving Fans, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Like
Mhm.
I've got those on my bookshelf too. So don't get me wrong. But the fact that every single book you mentioned,
Mhm.
although popular, although very helpful when it comes to leadership, for those of us listening, we have to remember that as women, we're going to
Mhm.
learn different. We're going to lead different, than a guy in the industry or even just a guy in any industry. So it doesn't matter where it goes. But I love when I hear organizations doing book clubs with their managers,
Mhm.
even just regular monthly training for managers. That is just truly inspirational. Now, earlier you talked about one of the things you learned is that sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. And I'm going to tack that on that sometimes we have to make those hard decisions sooner rather than later.
Yes, we wait way
So,
too long, way too long.
so tell me a little bit about a time or maybe the result of not doing something when you should have. And I think you know where I'm trying to go here, but indirectly. So
Yeah.
tell me about kind of a solution or something that you're like, we are so glad we did this. Why did we not do this sooner?
I mean, there have been many along my career, because I think you wait so long, because you don't want to lose anybody, right? You don't want to. I think attendance is one of our biggest ones
Mm.
we don't want to tackle because we're afraid they're all going to leave, and that's really hard. But then your good teachers are the ones who are going to leave. So before I came to Ebenezer, I had a teacher who had just started with us, and at the time, my superior came from retail, no clue about childcare, but she had experience being a district leader, so they hired her, which is fine, and many do just fine. But she did not understand the field at all, and she made me. It was just a really bad thing where we had a teacher who'd been with the company for 15 years, wonderful, parents loved her, so phenomenal. And I didn't stick up for her as much as I should have because the new teacher went above me, didn't even talk to me, went to my boss and said, all these things happened with this teacher. And she made me write her up as a final written warning. And I was like, she's never had anything. But I was so new in my role, I thought I had to go with it. So I did not stand up for her. And in the long run, we actually lost the good teacher and kept the teacher who really didn't know what was going on. And I learned from that. So I was like, okay, we're going to start working on things sooner. So that was a huge life lesson of I know my people. You're not in my building. So how do I help you understand where I'm coming from? But it's also helped me now as I'm overseeing center coordinators. We call them center coordinators here, to help actually listen to them about like they know their teachers better than I do. So we need to support them as well as everybody in a whole. And if there is any issue, we need to make sure we tackle it right away.
Well, I love that. So what are some other issues? I don't know, maybe technology based, maybe ways of communicating based that you guys struggled with and what solutions did you move towards?
Sure. So before I came, so we use okay, there's many different things, but in childcare there can be so many different solutions for all the different things. You can have one system for this, one system for that. You have all these different systems. So that was a big struggle when we onboard anybody. Is okay. Well, first you're going to go to this system to do the CRM. Now you're going to go to this system to approve time cards. Now you're going to go to this system so you can talk to the families. Now you're going to go to this system like there's just so many different things. So we were really looking for a like all-in-one inclusive type of system. So we recently switched, not recently, it feels recently, but it's 2 years ago, to a different communication app that it's Playground. So we just switched to them and we now have them as our CRM and it goes directly into the enrollment for families. Families inquire through there and they're in the system and they don't have to re-enter their information. We don't have to go in and enter it into anything. We also use that for, I mean, you can use it for payroll. We personally do not because when they piloted it, you could only have one location and we had more than one. And then we were already looking for a new system. So we went a different way, but there's this wonderful, and then they also just all the features and they listen. So one of the biggest things I've struggled with before is when I call somebody to say like, hey, do you have this report? Or, hey, we're looking for this in a system for any type of communication or reporting. They just say no. and they don't even want to have a conversation. But with Playground, they actually like listened and they created an entire report, which is a business report, which is a revenue summary that we needed for our business. They were more than happy to create it for us. It did take some time, but that was one of the things that we worked with them on, and they were so wonderful. And they just listen. And even now, they're listening to feedback. They've made changes based on what anybody is saying. Yeah, it's just been wonderful. But I think that's the biggest thing is we have so many different systems and so many different places where managers have to learn, and having just one is so much easier. It's like, just go to these two different things and you'll find everything.
Yeah, I think that you made a great point of that whole the onboarding of the staff and how if you have a really piecemeal tech stack now, you know, often in the industry, especially over the last probably 15 years, I've often had a side gig in addition to being a training and consultant. And a lot of my side gigs ended up in the tech industry. We won't talk about how long I've been in the tech industry, actually longer than I've been in the childcare industry in some way. Right. So I got my foot's always been over there. I kind of tell people that I'm kind of a closet techie. I don't really tell people until somebody looks at my resume and they go, "You worked at Microsoft?" I'm like, "Yeah, just put that to the side." So, but as a result, I think that it's really important for the directors, for the owners to go back and regularly review what's in your tech stack. What is your tech stack costing you? Do you have a provider you really, really like? And have you talked to them recently about what features they might have added? Who are who's in your tech stack that you don't like? And I'm not just talking about things that are designed for ECE. And actually, this probably applies to anybody in any industry, right? Like, back in the day, you had to have this QuickBooks software and you had to have this newsletter software of this, right? Well, QuickBooks or Intuit, actually.
Yeah.
Intuit is now literally bought all those other companies. And so now, again, you have now one login. And everything self-populates.
And you can go in the cloud. You don't have to be desktop. That was a huge thing that we did as well. And being a nonprofit, we got it for a reasonable price, but we would have to have it on somebody's computer and nobody else could use it. So now we're trying to move also towards the cloud. So like we have Microsoft, the whole package, right? Because we want to make sure if we did get hacked a long time ago, it was a disaster. It was before I was here. So I'm very thankful. It was a disaster. So now it's all in the cloud. Everything is so easy to you can access it from anywhere. And that was our purpose moving forward. I mean, even our door systems, we're moving towards like our locking ones to just a cloud base so that everything, like it's so much easier. But that was one of the biggest things was, how do we make it easier, especially QuickBooks, because we grew so quickly and are into it, whatever to call it. But we needed to have another user.
Well, and you got eight locations. So, so regardless of what software. So yes, Laura is talking about Playground and how they use it, but she also mentioned they use other software. And I even threw out the concept that regardless of your industry, go back at least once a year, at least. Some people might even need to, especially right now with all of the AI tools. If you have added a subscription to this AI or this AI or this AI, go back and look at them. Are you getting all you need to out of this AI? I used to have 7 or 8 because of different features. And again, I've been doing AI for about 4 years because of having worked for Microsoft and when Copilot came out way back when. Its predecessor, actually. And so, one of the things I encourage folks to do is to go back and really look at where that money might be sneaking away. Cause you can pick up those $19.99 a month subscriptions pretty dang fast. And next thing you know, it's only, I've only got a subscription to 4. Well, 4 of them at $20 a month plus all their taxes means you're spending $1,200 a year. Yep. And if you're only using one and you're only using it enough that you could have been using the free version, $1,200 versus free. Let's come back and look at that, right?
And that was the thing we also did with our payroll system. So we were not happy. We were having they messed up our benefits so bad that we had to manually calculate them. Not me. I should not say that. Somebody in our agency had to manually calculate it for 4 months. 4 months for 87 employees. And we knew, I know, okay. And we knew we were going to have a merger. And we're like, how is this even going to happen? Like, there was no way. So we did look at that. And then we also found a platform that was so user friendly. Like, I had to do payroll unexpectedly last Monday, and I could do it without anybody showing me. Like, that's how easy. I know. Like,
Okay,
granted,
so
I did help with setup.
we're not going to pitch them here, but I want you to share that
No.
link. We'll drop that in the show notes.
No, we're not. But I mean, but you need to know what you have, right? So the one before was so cumbersome. It took like 2 or 3 hours, and I'm just consolidating. And now we also have recruiting through there. So we actually spend a lot more with this company, but we don't pay any money to Indeed. We have 0 paid ads. And we are able to still actively hire without any help from paying the paid ads. So we actually save money. But
okay. So I think that might be a whole separate podcast. I'll come back.
But anyway, but you're right. We go through and we analyze, we look at, we say, okay, how can we save money? What is the easiest way? How can we take any work off of our directors' plates because they have so much on them? Like, how do we support them? And if we're not looking at our systems, like, that's the easiest way to do it right there.
So Laura, thank you. I love that. We couldn't have wrapped that up any better. So look at your systems, not just your paper ones, but look at your digital ones. What are your digital ones? Are you duplicating? Has somebody added a new feature? Again, ask around, and don't forget, if you are a 501c3 nonprofit or church-based, don't forget to ask for nonprofit rates. A lot of times, if you've got multiple locations, you might also just be able to get a multiple location site. If you're small, ask about a small business plan. Like, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So with that, Laura, thank you so much for joining us on today's conversation. And if you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, go to childcareconversations.com, click on the newsletter link, and join the newsletter. We publish 2 episodes a week, which means you get 2 newsletters a week, and those newsletters do not tell you everything that's in that episode. So we look forward to talking to you in a few days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.